Little Zoo had the target on it, and people hadn't really decided that Grove of the Burnwell's Punishing Fire was good enough. Now Ruben Zoo has the target on it. With the match at hand, we have Matt Boccio on the left, no rug, and Rob Castellon playing Reanimator. I'm going to predict that local player, I'm going to guess with that t-shirt, Rob, is going to be the victor of this Star City Games event. We see a Scalding Tarns cracked here. They've seen each other's lists, so Rob knows that there is no wasteland to punish him for getting the better land, in this case, his Underground Sea. Careful Study would be an excellent card for him right here, and there is Careful Study. Does Matt want to Mental Misstep that? Mental Misstep is then Force of Willed. Matt drops to 18. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Joey Pasco. This is the Boston Star City Games Live Open Series Legacy Top 8. On your left, Matt Boccio with No Rug, and Rob Castellon, a local player, on your right with Reanimator. Careful Study still out there on the stack. We're going to see what happens. Another Force of Will, this time actually making the Careful Study go to the yard. It was a big fight over Careful Study. And then we have a Volcanic Island from Matt Boccio. Turn 2, another Careful Study. Matt puts a mana in his pool, casts Brainstorm. Rob might find himself dazed here, potentially. It almost looks like Matt is considering a Force of Will.
Yeah, he does not want to let Rob get started.
Okay,
I can understand.
Brainstorm puts the cards back. That's the 2 cards he was handling. And the Careful Study resolves. Discard. Careful Study, a card that if you had told me long before it was printed that it would be a staple, I would never have believed you. Iona, the target, discarded into Rob Castellon.
And I believe
Castellon's Reanimation.
Was that another Careful Study that he discarded?
It was a second Careful Study that was discarded. We see a Misty Rainforest here for Matt. This is a rematch, so to speak, of archetypes. This was our round 1 pairing. No Rug versus Reanimator. Tropical Island.
So,
Brainstorm after the fetch. That's an unusual...
yeah.
But he also already knew what was on top of his library from
Right.
a previous Brainstorm.
Right, so it was kind of a Brainstorm before the fetch and after the fetch.
Brainstorm finishes resolving, 2 cards put back. Rob, perhaps entombing?
Matt looking very
I
kind
should
of...
say. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, the look on his face didn't look like he was kind of very unsure. Rob, on the other hand, looking very confident,
Yeah.
sitting back.
Reanimate, targeting Iona. Force of Will. Almost, that's a second Force of Will from Matt. His hand is quite depleted. Rob says, go ahead.
The good news for Rob on that is that you don't lose the life until the Reanimate resolves, so It's not as if he paid a whole bunch of life to reanimate that Iona, and then only to have it countered. So a fetch land from Matt, Misty Rainforest.
So each of these brainstorms has shuffled away one card for Matt.
I think it's time to crack my last Red Bull.
Send in the clowns. Okay, Dryad
Fetches
Arbor
up a Dryad
from Matt Boccio.
I mean, isn't the opening of a Red Bull more interesting than watching them shuffle? There's a Tarmogoyf.
There we go. There's the clock that Matt needs to get on the table. Entomb at the end of the turn. What does that do? Well, that card lets you tutor through your library and put a card into your graveyard.
Is Matt empty-handed right now? It looks like he may be.
Is that a Jin-Gitaxias?
It certainly is Jin-Gitaxias.
Well, one of the things that's really cool about Matt being empty-handed is that if Rob reanimates that Jin-Gitaxias, Matt will not lose any cards from his hand.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. I don't mind being homeless, because then if I can't have a house that would burn down.
You know, I hear the markets crashed, but I already was broke, so it didn't really matter.
Exactly. Doesn't affect me at all.
There's all kinds of ways you can say this.
Absolutely. So Entomb puts Jin-Gitaxias in the graveyard.
Exhume
Rob
would be
is likely going to exhume it. Can I see your graveyard? Is there any
just make
creatures
sure there's
in there?
anything of note. I don't think there
Right.
is. There's the Exhume,
Yeah.
Jin, and then end of the turn it'll be a draw 7. Contract
There
from
it is.
below. It's like Jin-Gitaxias has you sign your name on the paper. With a newly sculpted hand, he discards a Reanimate. At this point, a natural order would put down a 2-turn clock. And that would be quite problematic.
Yeah, just because Matt's drawing only... just because Matt's down to just the top of his deck doesn't mean that there's no natural order on the top of his deck. He
Right.
can very well draw right into it. So.
I think that was the end of Matt Boccio's window. At this point, Rob Castellon is likely to have the correct numbers of Force of Wills and everything else that he'll need to just guarantee that Matt can't come into this game. Matt draws his, refills his hand to 7 cards. He'll have potentially 13 or 12 at the end of this turn, most likely.
You mean Rob, right?
Rob,
You
my
said
my bad. Yep.
Just got a little confused there.
Is that a Watery Grave?
Coming into play untapped.
He does have 4, count them, 4 Underground Seas, but he wanted another one, just so he used the next best thing, Watery Grave. And there's an Exhume that brings back the Noble Hierarch for Matt Boccio, but Iona comes into play, probably going to name green. Green takes care of almost anything that would be of note. And then Jin-Gitaxias comes over, swinging in for, I think, is it a 4/5 or a 5/4?
Jin is a 5/4.
Okay, 7 fresh cards for Rob. Matt empty-handed.
Do we know what he named with Iona?
I don't know the color that he named, but I would imagine he probably named green.
Yeah.
And green is our
green.
confirmation. It is green.
Makes sense.
And Rob sculpts an incredible hand, discards a Terastodon, a Imperial Archangel, some land, and I think a Ponder. I think it's time to go to game 2, Matt.
Well, these aren't timed rounds, so Matt.
Well, I mean, your energy is not.
Oh yeah, I'm not. It's not. It's a finite resource, of course. I'm just saying, like, if he thinks there's a possibility, he's trying to think about it. Can I get out of this? What can I draw?
Rob looks very calm right now. He knows how in the bag this is. Let me see. there's also the question of more information. What Matt can get here is get information about what reanimation targets that Rob Castellon has. So, like, for example, right now, he knows that there's an Imperial Archangel, an Iona, a Terastodon. Terastodon isn't always in these lists, even though it's often in these lists.
Matt kind of looks like he's facing down an Iona and a Jin-Gitaxias. Oh wait, he is.
He does look pretty frustrated.
I think that's the face of a man facing down those two cards. I can't cast any green spell, and also I can't keep anything in my hand ever.
I'm not sure where the Tarmogoyf got yarded. Did it attack into the Iona?
It may very well have.
I mean, might as well see if Rob doesn't block it. Maybe Rob won't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he attacked into Iona, and then when Iona blocked, he just played out the Wooded Foothills that he was probably using to bluff some sort of burn spell. Looks like Noble Hierarch chump blocks the Jin-Gitaxias. Give himself a little bit more time.
Maybe a little bit more information. I mean, I feel like after the discard, I would just concede to Rob after I see what he discards.
He's cracking a fetch land.
Cracking a fetch land also gives him an opportunity to go through his library and see if there's anything in there. Just to remind himself, is there anything there? That gets a Dryad Arbor, which could block one more time, but there's still an Iona coming. We had talked about favorite creatures in Magic before. I can tell you Iona is not one of my favorite creatures in Magic.
Why is that?
I just find it kind of boring. White is boring.
White is boring.
Yeah, white is the boringest.
The boringest, yes. So where have I heard this before?
And Matt Boccio scoops it up after having seen Rob's draw or discard.
Yeah, actually, we're so used to doing commentary on the Swiss rounds where they don't know each other's deck lists. They know each other's deck lists. There's no information.
Oh yeah, they actually already know them. That's right. So for those of you who are longtime watchers of Star City Games Open Series, you know that we give a giveaway.
Yep.
Of 3 months of premium in the top 8.
Yep, in the quarterfinals.
That's right. And so what you do is you get onto Twitter. Mm-hmm. You use hashtag SCG Premium to answer our trivia question. And if you are one of the correct answers of this trivia question, what you will be able to do is there will be one random person from that group will be given 3 free months of premium. And I believe you have a question prepared.
I do have a question.
Remember, SCG Premium, the hashtag is the number symbol.
Yep, hashtag SCG Premium, and apparently we're a hashtag.
That's right.
So, for 3 months of SCG Premium, or for the potential to win 3 months of SCG Premium, what archetype won this morning in the finals of the standard portion of Star City Games Open Series Boston?
If you were here this morning bright and early, the standard was won by what archetype? Tweet that answer to hashtag SCG Premium, and if you're one of the lucky correct answers, one of those people will be given 3 free months of premium. Or in Jacob Van Lunen turns,
what was it, a trimester?
A trimester of free premium. Now, personally, I make sure that every time that I get up in the morning, if it's a weekday, I read my Star City Games Premium. If I haven't already read it in the evening before I go to bed.
Like at midnight, right.
Yeah, exactly. Right when it's posted, I'm like, they posted it. I'm going to make sure I get it in right now.
So one of the other cool things, actually, now that you mentioned that, SCG Mobile, the iPhone app, which there's an Android version in development right now.
Right, that's cool.
Just to mention. But the SCG Mobile iPhone app allows you to read both premium and select articles, and very often the articles go live several hours earlier than midnight. Then they go live on the actual site, so you actually can get a jump on those articles.
That's awesome.
Just by having the mobile app.
So let's talk about some sideboarding options.
Okay.
Matt Boccio, he has Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast. Those are both good answers to both the counter spells and other library manipulation that Rob Castellon has. And he knows, having the deck list of Rob Castellon, that Thoughtseize is a possibility, as well as cards like Blazing Archon and Shieldred, which can utterly shut down the natural order portion of his combo. So one of the questions I kind of want to raise is he probably is going to bring in Jace as a means to bounce those cards. But because he's got enough cards that are kind of weak, Fire Ice is fairly weak, for example. Grim Lavamancer is fairly weak in this matchup. Lightning Bolt is fairly weak. He's got enough room. Does he bring in a couple of Submerge, even as a terribly expensive answer?
Like, that's an interesting point, yeah.
It's expensive, but I mean, there aren't very many answers he has to a big creature in play.
Right, I mean, it's low on the list, but if you, like you said, I guess you'd rather have a Submerge than a Lightning Bolt.
I would rather have a Submerge that I spend 5 mana on than a Grim Lavamancer if I were Matt Boccio.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
That's he's got 6 cards that are fairly weak. 3 easy sideboards in, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, and then 2 probably easy sideboards in with Jace. That leaves him with 1 slot. I would put in 1 Submerge just as a bad unsummon.
Right. I mean, the only thing about about potentially keeping in maybe a Bolt is just getting in that last bit of extra damage, because as we've been saying all day, the no-rug list's plan B is just to beat down without the natural order combo, and there can be a situation where Matt beats down enough to where a Bolt would actually finish Rob off.
Right. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's not just the comparison to Necro Donate that Jin Gitaxias Reanimate brings because of the draw 7. It's also the possibility that Reanimate will be lose 10 life. And, if that's the card that you use, the lose 10 life, a Lightning Bolt can chop away at the rest of it. So it is very similar to Necro in that way, in a sense. The Necro Donate decks of old.
Now, as far as Rob's concerned, Blazing Archon, Sheoldred, we already mentioned. Elish Norn seems very good too, just to make those Tarmogoyfs kind of laughable little dudes, and those.
I think Elish Norn is solid. I mean, it takes care of Noble Hierarchs and Dryad Arbors. You might actually just lay it and decimate, the other side of the board. Not actually decimate, because that's losing a 10th of your forces. It's going to be probably several decimations.
How about it annihilates?
Oh.
Well, even though Elish Norn is not an Eldrazi. But yeah, that seems very, very reasonable.
As far as Cenobites go, Elish Norn is my second favorite Cenobite.
Yeah, she's pretty grand, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I wasn't hired for my comedy skills.
Jin Gitaxias, I like him a lot. It's almost in my running for top creatures of all time for me, but I'm not sure if it makes my favorite list.
It has Flash.
It helps you out there,
yeah,
right?
I like Jin Gitaxias. There was something that Chapin brought up on a podcast where he was talking about how about 5 mana or turn 5, you play your 5th land or whatever, swing with a Squadron Hawk, Sword of Feast and Famine. Trigger on the stack, tap 5, untap your lands, tap 5, flash in Jin Gitaxias in standard.
Right.
With Sword of Feast and Famine.
The first couple of turns have gone underway. We see turn 1 land from Matt Boccio, turn 1 land from Rob Castellon. At the end of the turn, Brainstorm from Matt Boccio, and in response, Rob Castellon goes Entomb.
Yeah.
Is that going to be okay?
How would you like it if I put a very large creature in my graveyard? Mental misstep. I read the lips there, and there's the card. So Rob says, okay, misstep, that's fine. I think Rob, knows Matt runs the mental misstep. He's probably been playing against mental missteps all day long. So I'd say he was fine with that trade. One of those, like, if you have it, you have it kind of thing.
Waiting to see how this end of turn Brainstorm plays out. It's the end of Rob's turn.
So Brainstorm finishing up here. Matt looks like he's decided on 2 cards, wants to just get a last look at them.
Fun thing about Brainstorm, looking at a lot of old lists when Brainstorm was legal, you'll notice that there are almost no Brainstorms being played. And it's not because people didn't realize that Brainstorm was good. It was that Brainstorm wasn't very good.
What do you mean?
There were almost no shuffle effects.
Oh, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah, imagine if Brainstorm is merely look a little bit ahead, but you have to stick with it. There's a reason people generally played Impulse over it.
So you're saying, like, no fetch lands, no Squadron Hawks. Maybe Brainstorm comes back in Innistrad.
Oh my goodness, that's never happening, but I wish. Oh my god.
I just gotta run with those gags. So Noble Hierarch from Matt.
Jin
Rob.
Gitaxias. So for those of you who don't know what Jin Gitaxias is, this is the kind of cornerstone of this reanimation deck.
Yeah, there are
It's,
3 copies in the main deck.
3 copies. Everything else is a singleton, including between the full 75. There are no extra copies of anything in the sideboard. No extra Terastodon, for example. Jin Gitaxias is a 10 mana. It's a blue 8 flash creature. Is it 5/4? I always forget that part.
It is.
5/4. At the end of your turn, draw 7 cards, and your opponent's maximum hand size is 0. Or is it their opponent discards their hand?
It's their maximum hand size is 0.
Okay, I got it right the first time there. Functionally very similar. Though Obstinate Baloth would trigger off of one and not the other.
That's true.
So it's actually the functionally better
it's actually better,
version.
yeah.
Noble Hierarch sitting here across the table from 2 lands from Rob Castellon.
Let me actually clarify that. It is each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7.
Yeah, each opponent's... So if you have any mana or hand size boosting abilities. A second Noble Hierarch here is hit by a mental misstep. Matt Boccio says, okay. Attack for a big 1. Noble Hierarch turns himself into a squire. And Entomb at the end of the turn from Rob Castellon.
There's a Force of Will. Removing Vendilion Click.
Matt's hand is reduced right now to about 1 or 2 cards, I think.
It's kind of like Rob played a Jin Gitaxias anyway.
Careful study. As the hall empties out, we're going to start having to speak more and more quietly because we do not want our voices to actually be overheard by the players.
Depending on what we're saying, we can comment on what's actually happening, but mentioning what's in the player's hand is something we need to avoid. Careful study resolves, and Rob discards Jin Gitaxias and Iona. That's rough. No reanimation spell, though. At least not that turn. So, Matt Boccio untaps, draws his card with a Noble Hierarch, Volcanic Island, and a Taiga in play, but has no play and passes back to Rob.
This is a 3 mana play coming. There it is, the Vendilion Click.
Alright, Vendilion Click. Brainstorm from Rob. Let me see what's on top, and let me put 2 of my best spells back.
Brainstorm as a hidey.
Yep. And now you can... He's like, are you targeting me? Yeah. Oh, so he targets himself, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably fine with Rob.
I definitely lost a match where my opponent didn't declare their targets yet, and I just threw my hand down to show him, and he was like, this is actually Owen Turtenwald. This is in the finals of a PTQ, and he's like, no, I was going to target me. Owen didn't do anything wrong. I was just jumping the gun, and the information that Owen got from that is not wrong to be like, well, I saw those cards, I'm going to play to them.
Right, exactly. Now Matt actually had to reveal the card that he put on the bottom, and it was Progenitus. So that Vendilion Click
gave himself an effective +1 in the hand size because that Progenitus was dead in his hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only useful as a Force of Will bait until it gets into the deck.
So it looks like a go from Rob. A little bit of a question. Jin Gitaxias artwork by Eric Deschamps, who is an artist who has shown up to several of the SCG Live or Star City Open Series events to sign cards and do alters and things. We've got Mark Heiser here with us today, still working hard over there doing playmats. He's been doing playmats all day. I've been walking by his table and checking out the artwork over there. And Eric Deschamps is an artist known for Venser and Celestial Colonnade.
Which Venser?
The Venser the Sojourner. Sorry, the first Venser is Alexis Briclot, which is the guy
How do you know all of this?
He did the art for all the original Lorwyn Planeswalkers.
The original. Okay, I've got another question for you then.
Yeah.
Who did the art for the original Birds of Paradise?
Mark Poole.
You're incredible. That's awesome.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of cards I probably don't know.
Okay, Phyrexian Debaser.
I can't picture that one.
Okay. And we finally get to continue with the turn. In comes the Vendilion Click for 3. Or so for 4, my bad, for 4. And a Tarmogoyf. That Vendilion Click is pumped up, of course, by the Noble Hierarchs. That's 4 damage.
I'm checking to make sure I was correct on that Birds of Paradise.
I trust that you were probably correct.
I'm almost positive, but, you know, good to check. I know the 7th edition Birds of Paradise is Edward Beard Jr. Do you know that one?
I do not like the new art for Birds of Paradise.
You mean the Ravnica ones? I like. Is that?
I don't like either of the new arts. I like the original Birds of Paradise. That's the right one.
The right one. Jeremy likes 7th edition. I was right. It is Mark Poole. You know,
and Rob draws a card, says go, attacks Rob Castellon to within 1 attack, and Rob, sitting with a handful of Jin Gitaxias in his hand and no way to reanimate the one in the yard, no real action.
So Matt able to fight through that time.
A quick reminder to those of you who are tweeting the answers to the Star City game giveaway. Remember, tweet your answer to hashtag SCG Premium. It's okay if you put at SCG Live there, but in order to be eligible for the contest, your answer to our trivia question has to be at the hashtag SCG Premium. For those of you who are just joining us, we are in the middle. We are in the middle of the Star City Games Live Open Series here in Boston. It's day 2. Day 1 was taken down by a player named, what's his name?
Oh, sorry, it was Anders Simpson Wolf?
Yes, Anders Simpson Wolf. And the trivia question relates to what he was playing, so we're going to hold that one on for now. But Anders Simpson Wolf is our champion from this morning. And right now we're in the top 8 of the Legacy portion. And it's going to be Matt Boccio with No Rug in the final game of best of 3 versus Rob Castellon with Reanimator.
Speaking of the top 8, we have this awesome picture of the top 8 for Legacy. Look at these guys.
If you get a chance, get down here to one of these Star City Games events. You can see there Alex carrying a lot of weight there.
There's John Sukenik there with his Star City cape.
Right. So it looks to me as though Alex was walking away earlier. I think he might have lost.
Yeah, haven't heard word, but he did walk away. We'll see if we can get confirmation of that.
Yep. Are you messaging Glenn, or should I get him?
I saw you typing and thought you were messaging him.
I was looking for him. There he is. We see our... Looks like a pile shuffle. I think there was a mulligan there for Rob.
I'm guessing there may have been. Yeah, playing Reanimator, I know from the perspective of the person playing the deck, you can kind of, like, Entomb really doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? It puts those cards where I can get at them if my reanimation spells resolve, but it's the reanimation spells that that are the precious kind of things that need to be protected, or need to actually resolve. So
the word from the floor, Alex Bertoncini, he did indeed win, not lose. We saw him walking away earlier, but I'm thinking that was just because he won so quickly.
Wow.
He was like walking off, getting his legs moving and getting a little bit of a rest, getting a breather outside. And in the other matchup, the Bobby Sullivan versus John Sekenek mirror match, Bobby Sullivan took it down. And I think we talked about this earlier, that this was pretty close to a coin flip, but I thought that there were maybe some small things that might make it a 52-48 coin flip.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I just went with John Sekenek just to have a different choice. Looks like you were right on that one.
Well, I mean, on a coin flip, it's a coin flip. But turn one, a careful study from Rob.
And that appears to be resolving. Yeah, so he discards.
I can't tell what either of those cards are.
I kind of missed it because they're half off screen.
Yeah, they're half off screen. I missed it. It's like, I can't tell from the top little smidge of that art either.
Yeah, me neither. Didn't get enough of a look at it. I'm going to find out. Jeremy's probably checking on that right now, exactly what was discarded, since it is very relevant in a Reanimator list.
Turn one, Noble Hierarch from Matt Boccio. Rob draws.
Polluted Delta.
Ponder.
Ponder resolves. Sheoldred, the Whispering One, and Careful Study. Okay, I was wondering if that was Sheoldred.
Sheoldred. I love Sheoldred.
Very, very big fan of Sheoldred as well. Kind of funny how these new Phyrexia cards are just making this deck so powerful. So, looks like Noble Hierarch taps to put out a second Noble Hierarch for Matt. And Rob's turn. Draws his card. Watery Grave, coming to play untapped. Apparently needs that mana this turn. And Exhume.
Exhume, that's one of my favorite cards in this deck.
It's incredible. It's pretty good.
Dodges Mental Misstep, it's cheap and can potentially get around a daze because 3 mana is not very hard to have up for that extra mana for the daze. Spell Snare can hit it, but Spell Snare is not as popular as a lot of other cards right now.
And it's definitely not in Matt Boccio's list. One of my old favorite tricks to do was turn 1, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Exhume. Nice turn 1, anything I want. Yeah, but now there's Mental Misstep, which makes Dark Ritual a little bit less attractive.
This is true.
You know, adding islands and counterspells to a deck, never a problem for me. And reads a Sheoldred. That's the pre-release version of Sheoldred, so that was one of the reasons we had trouble recognizing it, because it's alternate artwork.
I think I've come up with my favorite creature of all time.
Why don't you hold that back for after the match?
Okay.
Let's slow roll it.
Slow roll. Noble Hierarch.
Well, that was not much of a snow roll either.
Snow roll. Sheoldred faces off against Noble Hierarchs. One is lost. Sheoldred is demanding an answer quickly.
Sheoldred.
Sylvan Library.
It can help a lot as far as digging to an answer, but if it's going to, it kind of depends on how close to the top of the deck that answer is.
Sylvan Library is my favorite spell in Magic, by the way.
Yeah. Sylvan Library is very, very cool, and definitely love that card. Sheoldred, for those of you who may not remember specifically, it's a 6/6 Swamp Walk. The Swamp Walk not really relevant in this match, but the very relevant ability is at the beginning of your upkeep, you return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So she's just Reanimator right on, on a card, on a permanent every turn, very much like Rhea Dawnbringer.
Yep.
However, she has an additional ability, which is at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature.
One-way Abyss. A third Noble Hierarch is brought into play by Matt. Sheoldred attacks for 6. Answers to Sheoldred are few and far between. It's possible that if he did bring in Submerge, he could cast Submerge on his upkeep before Shieldred's trigger comes into play. Of course, that's if he did bring in some merch.
Doesn't that trigger go on the stack at the beginning of the upkeep, though?
But you can still put the mana in the pool. He does not do that.
Rob doesn't have anything in his graveyard to take advantage of Shieldred's other ability as far as reanimating.
There is a natural order amongst that set of cards, but part of the problem here is that if he natural orders away the Noble Hierarch, let's pretend it resolves. He needs another creature in play, or else Shieldred just eats away a Progenitus.
Yeah. One way to deal with Progenitus, make them sacrifice it. Rob will happily take a hit from Progenitus if that's necessary, but it's not even going to be if Matt doesn't have a second creature.
I do see a natural order in Matt Boccio's hand.
That is a Misty Rainforest, which can allow him to search for a Dryad Arbor to sacrifice, so that will give him a turn to potentially swing with the Progenitus. However, again, if he can't add another creature to the board, that's going to be a problem. So
now that's presuming that this even resolves.
Exactly.
Now, Sylvan Library very likely can refill Matt's hand enough after he's what is that card?
That is Flusterstorm.
Wow.
Did not expect that
Flusterstorm
out of the sideboard. There's one Flusterstorm in Rob's sideboard. I thought it was for something like the Hive Mind matchup.
Well, I mean, in this case, Flusterstorm is, what is that? It's a Spell Pierce, effectively, right?
Yeah. And Matt doesn't have.
I mean,
and the cool thing, though, is it's not just Spell Pierce, because Spell Pierce dies to Mental Misstep, right?
That's right.
Flusterstorm does not. Flusterstorm, what is it? It's got Storm, so how many spells have been cast this turn? Right?
It's the second one.
Right.
First was Natural Order, second was Flusterstorm.
That's what I thought. So there's 2 copies. So he could counter one with Mental Misstep and pay with the using the land from the Misty Rainforest. But
there's only 1 copy, right? Like it doesn't storm off of itself. Entomb, because the Natural Order, Flusterstorm. There's 1 spell that's already been cast that turn. It doesn't storm off of itself. You need so it's the second.
No,
spell.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so there's what I'm saying though. It's spell.
Oh, you're counting the first one.
I'm counting the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 2 Flusterstorm.
Gotcha. Now I understand what you're saying.
What I meant. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Entomb after the Flusterstorm counters the Natural Order.
And that's going to be huge because if Matt can't, I mean, I don't think Matt really can do anything right here. Rob's going to get Jin Gitaxias into play just off of the Shieldred trigger.
Yeah. And then we're going to see the contract from below that Jin Gitaxias represents.
It's the Praetor beatdown, I think, is what we're getting here.
Here it is.
New Phyrexia
Jin Gitaxias.
in all its glory. 2 Praetors. I mean, we get the Praetor, a trifecta of Praetors, as far as Elish Norn showing up at some point.
The Misty Rainforest now being sacrificed gets a, I'm guessing, a Volcanic Island? Perhaps? Perhaps?
He's kind of not sure. But is this is still end of Rob's turn before he...
This is before the end of the turn, right?
Right, so. Exactly. It's a Jin Gitaxias is in play. I'm pretty sure Jin Gitaxias did hit play.
Yeah, I agree.
But it may still be a main phase situation here. Red Elemental Blast would take care of the Jin Gitaxias. But not for very long. It does not exile it. So
right.
Shieldred sticks around, and at the beginning of next turn, we're in the same situation where Jin Gitaxias comes right back.
Yeah, what's going to need to happen is Matt Boccio is going to need to find 2 cards to deal with that Shieldred off of that Sylvan Library. None of his cards can do it 1 for 1. It's going to take a combination of cards to do it.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, he's at 12 now, and that Shieldred is going to take half of that away.
I suppose actually a Jace from Matt Boccio could 1 for 1, as in, I shouldn't say 1 for 1, none for 1, use 1 counter to bounce Shieldred. So if he is able to successfully Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast Jin Gitaxias and follow up with a Jace, he can then bounce Shieldred and be in a position where he's just mostly in trouble.
Yeah.
Not even mostly in trouble at that point.
But yeah, he actually stabilized.
He would stabilize. Yeah. He would stabilize with that set of plays. And it looks like Kurt Spice is ahead. He has not yet won Game 3, but he's ahead. And we kind of predicted that Kurt would be very likely to be ahead, just given the makeup of his build for that matchup.
Is there a judge call, or is there something going on here? Both of those guys look very pensive right now.
I think they're, what's going on, says Matt. I just want to win this game. Rob says, I want to win this game. You gotta understand. No, really, I'd like to win it.
It's like, what am I supposed to do? He's got a Jingataxi. He says, that's Jingataxi, it's very
him
good.
Down. It's pretty powerful.
Rob is getting a looking at extra cards penalty. Huh. Didn't actually see that happen. Not, yeah, didn't. I
We're going to have to find out what the results are of this. Is that Alex there?
That is
right
Alex,
right behind him? And
I didn't actually see where. I wonder where the looking at extra cards came from.
Yeah, for those of you who are just joining us, right now we're in the final game of the quarterfinal match between Matt Boccio with No Rug and Rob Castellon. And there's a judge ruling that's going to be issued about whether or not Rob Castellon, who might be being given looking at extra cards, whether or not he is going to be awarded a game loss in Game 3. Now, Rob Castellon has been given this warning previously in the tournament.
Yeah, there's a question of whether or not it's even looking at extra cards at all, though. He's not even clear on whether or not that's actually what happened.
I didn't see anything that would make it look to me like there was a moment where extra cards were looked at.
Right, I don't know where it was, because what I saw was, Jingataxi has come into play, and then Matt fetching.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rob was getting ready. Okay, well, I guess we're going to find out what happens now.
So game's back in progress. There's a Pyroblast from Matt, which seemed like the way things were going here.
Okay. And then we see a Pyroblast is going to be dazed, returning an island. And was there a fetch in there or something? What's the shuffle?
Yeah, can we figure out why he's shuffling?
Yeah, I didn't see a fetch.
I mean, there's a polluted delta.
Oh, that's Matt Boccio's library.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Oh, maybe no, it's not. No,
no,
that's Rob Castellon's library. I mean, there's a. I'm guessing there was a reasonable reason for that shuffle to happen. Hopefully.
Would love to know what it was, though.
I think there was maybe a polluted delta, fetched an island, and
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see it. And then end of the turn, draw 7. Now I'm pretty sure that it's all wrapped up, but the Cryon. Matt Boccio untaps, draws, looks at 2 extra cards. There's the Jace. So that could have worked out for him if that Pyroblast had resolved. He would have been able to Pyroblast the Jingataxis just to delay it and then lay a Jace and bounce the Shieldred. And Rob only would have had one card in hand besides the Shieldred. But instead, it looks like he's facing down 7 great cards from Rob, and he doesn't have much time here.
Apparently, it was a warning for looking at extra cards, and they needed to randomize the top of the deck. That's what the shuffle was about.
But
okay. Still trying to find out exactly where that look came from.
Yeah, I didn't even see it at all. I was like watching that entire time there, and I didn't see what they're talking about.
Maybe he looked over at another game, and those are outside the game. They're extra cards. Maybe that was what it was.
Could be.
Probably not.
Jace gets dazed just because, and Matt Boccio is taken down by Rob Castellon.
And his pair of Praetors from New Phyrexia, making the Reanimator deck playable. So there's the 1 seed, goes down to the 8 seed, as we suspected.
Yeah.
Although he did make a match of it.